they're getting them, right? So for now, Americans are actually going to give a shit about that, which they should have cared the whole time, right? Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I didn't say I even support this bill, but I do know that this liberal left is finally going to wake the fuck up and realize that, hey, my grandma can't get it, but the legal still getting it? Nah, that's not fair, right? Now they're going to give a shit, right? So I think that's a good thing for a wake-up call, right? Number one. Number two, right? When it comes down to the specifics of the bill, I don't think anybody really knows it right now. I think everybody's just talking bullshit. Everybody's just yapping. I don't think anybody knows the specifics of it. I'm hearing two different things. I'm hearing one to where that's just a federal bill and the states can still impose whatever they want to impose. And then two, I'm hearing that all the numbers are bullshit. I don't really know. The Democrats are saying this is what it is, but the Republicans aren't really saying this. I don't really know how much the bill does. So I have to sit back and read it. I have to sit back and really, really see what it really entails for me to know anything about it. But I do know one thing though, right? That this is really going to be a wake-up call for a lot of people.
True. Well, okay, I'm going to close the room, guys. Thank you, everybody, for showing up.
Motherfuckers waiting for your refund check. Well, you wasn't paying taxes anyway.
Could somebody, one of the mods, invite Just D to the stage? I'm curious. He's he's a lawyer, and I'm curious.
And what if she doesn't pay it? Then we are actually not.
So Sarah, I just want to make this clear.
We are actually
I want to make something clear to
attacking
you.
certain classes.
I want to make this clear to you, and then I'm going to pass the mic to Adams. What you just said is that you want the government to be involved, and this, by definition, makes you a socialist. Adam.
Yeah, so, Roger, I'm calling a lot of bullshit about people that want to use student loan model and their grievances about how the big beautiful bill is ruining everybody's lives. These are the same people that are otherwise complaining about not being able to pay their student loans, yet they have time to be complaining about it on Clubhouse. Obviously, it's not that expensive to where you're dedicating time to which you otherwise should be working a second job to pay off that debt, complaining about it on the internet. I'm sorry. At some point, these people have to stop complaining and they have to go to work like the rest of us.
Yeah, Roger, the only thing I was going to say is that the only mistake that I made in chat earlier, I was looking at the cost of attendance or whatever for that college, and you were right, yeah, it is around like 1.2, 1.4 a year. I was looking at just the cost of attendance sheet that they put on their website, like the expected cost or whatever, after accounting for like books, supplies, living expenses, transportation, and personal misc on top of the tuition. They say apparently for at home it's $21K, for away it's $35K, but those are still easily doable.
Well, let's be honest though, like, the majority of people that go to a community college are people that live in the community. And when they go to community college, typically it's right after high school. So these are people that are still living with their parents, that live in the community, and they're either taking a bus or getting driven to the school by their fucking parents. Maybe they even ride a bike. Maybe they're close enough to walk. The whole idea behind a community college is to provide a lower cost opportunity to people to put their toe in the water to get an education. Many of the people that go to these community colleges, they don't finish their 2-year degree. They don't get enough credits to establish themselves to transfer to a 4-year institution. In fact, the majority of them, they go there, they take a couple of classes, and then they reaffirm to themselves, yes, this education thing is not for me. So I don't know why Sarah brought up Compton Community College. Like, it's one of the weirdest examples I've ever fucking heard somebody bring up.
I'd have a bit of a disagreement with it. Like, I'm a community college student right now, and I know a ton of other people in my classes that are too. Most of us do live by ourselves, and if not, we have rented out rooms with like roommates and that type of stuff, where we're paying for that. The majority of us do have cars to get to work.
Did you go to community college right out of high school?
Yeah.
So you're telling me that you opted to move out of your parents' home to take the burden of rent and utilities while you don't have the career, rather than stay at home, go to community college.
I work just enough to know. Yeah, I worked just enough in order to be able to make that payment by myself. Originally, I had moved out with an old partner of mine. We got a place together at that point, and then we ended up having that split between both of us, right? Because I was kind of getting tired of how far away I was from the college I was in. I was like 40 minutes away from where I was at, and take in mind the majority of the reason why most of people in my age range, like maybe 22 to 24, ended up going to community was because we graduated in the COVID time. Like we graduated 2020, 2021-ish, right? So most of us were just like, I'm not gonna pay extra tens of thousands of dollars just to go to a different online link to have the same education for my prerequisite courses. So the majority of us ended up just going to community college in that case, and at least for me moving out, that's because I had a partner during that time. We moved in together. We paid separate rent during that point because we didn't want to live in our parents' house anymore. Plus the house that we ended up getting, or the condo that we ended up getting, was about, I think, like 20 minutes closer to our schools and our jobs too. So it was just better it was just better for like practicality of what I was gonna do too. Plus, most of us have cars in high school by that time. We don't usually wait till afterwards to get our cars. And even if we do, you can still find like a easy $500,000 beater that you can get yourself onto. So there's a lot of choice that you could make there, but it's not necessarily like it's out of the range for most people.
Yeah, well, but prior to having a career, you're taking on the debt of rent, you're taking on the debt of a car payment.
Well, my car's paid off, so that's fine. I don't have to deal with that one. It's just the mortgage that I have to deal with.
But you had to pay $5,000 for the car, is that right?
No, that one, what's it called? The car.
You said it's a $5,000 beater. That's
No. I said you could get a $500 to $1,000 beater if you didn't have a car already by the time you got out of high school. That's what I said.
a $500 car in 2025?
Yeah, there's actually quite a lot. If you go over on Craigslist or if you go over to a different place, it really just takes maybe $200 or a little bit more to tune it up or clean up the things that are really bad with it, and then you can put like $500 to like $2,000 down, and then you'll get yourself a nice little car. Now, it's not going to be great, but it does the job to get you where you need to go. And if you're in a situation where your beggars can't be choosers, well, I'd rather take a $500 to $2,000 beater to get where I need to go consistently and reliably.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, so if you're going to make the choice of buying a car before you have a career, maybe if you were in an area that doesn't have public transportation, you can make an argument that that's a wise investment. But if it breaks down and you're paying maintenance costs, because buying an inexpensive, buying an inexpensive car is going to be a money pit unless you know how to work on it yourself. But the bigger point that I'm making is that all of this stuff is choice. And so if somebody chooses to move out of their parents' house, chooses to buy a car, have to pay insurance, upkeep of the car, and they're paying rent, and they're paying utilities, probably have some semblance of a social life. Those are a lot of choices that you're making. And then we have people complaining that they can't afford the loan.
Yeah, because they're not working.
It's insane. That's insane. These are not wise choices.
Like, I work 40-hour weeks for the most part, and I still do full-time student stuff, and I've been doing just fine on my end. So for me, it really, and especially if like the tuition cost per semester for me is only about $1,500 each semester. I take maybe 2 to 3 each year. It's really not too big of a dent, if anything, especially if I can make that 1.5 in like 2 weeks, and I can just pay for the semester in 2 weeks. So it's not really too big of an issue if people actually find a decent work that they can get into or work the appropriate amount of hours rather than spending it on somewhere else. Like right now, I'm at work as we speak right now, but for the most part, most people just don't find the, drive to go ahead and just get a fucking job or put in some extra hours somewhere to get themselves a couple.
This is probably the first time that I have completely 100% agreed with you, XG. This has been my whole point. These people are lazy. For some reason, our generation has an issue with being allergic to work. And to be very honest with you, when you look at the healthcare expenditures that people are so happy that are going to be, reduced, a lot of people from Generation X and the baby boomers have drained the generation's parents behind them financially. They financially have drained them, between having to bail them out, between all the failed relationships and having to help their 5-time divorced kids rebuild just so that their grandkids that were used to hold over the parents' head for financing reasons, tapped into people's retirements and money that otherwise would have been paying for people's health care in their older age. It's a problem. These people need to go to work. They need to stop kicking the can down the road, stop going to your parents for a handout, and go to work.
Like,
It's catching up to all of us.
like for the most part, I mean, I still find time to be able to pay all my bills. I've been able to take a couple of vacations, like for a couple of days over to a different state to go see a concert and hang out with some family, or to go to a different country and hang out there for maybe like a week or two and then come back. Like, it's really just knowing how to fucking network, and a lot of us don't know how to do that. So, unfortunately, that's probably why we're in the situation we're in right now. But most of the people complaining about the bills or the tuition costs right now just made really bad fucking financial decisions in getting there, or decided to go to a like for example, I always will never bash community college because it's one of the biggest fucking cheat codes of all time. Why would I pay tens of thousands more per semester, or thousands of more per semester, to go to go to, like, for example, I'm in Florida, so like, why would I pay that much more to go to UCF or FSU for my first 2 years when all I'm going to be doing is the same fucking prerequisites that I was doing at my community college that will give me the same accreditation and the same everything?
Oh my
for
God.
thousands less. Shut the fuck up, Dreadhead. Shut up. Anyways, continue.
Hold on. You ain't gotta be disrespectful, brother.
Yeah, you disrespected
You don't have
me
to
by
be.
not
I
listening
said,
to my
brother,
thoughts.
this bill was passed for the rich.
Well, hold on. You're not
Quit digging in your ass, brother.
Yeah, not
Listen
good,
and read
brother.
the
Shut the
bill,
fuck
brother.
up. Keep smoking
Bro.
that blunt, bitch. You smell like a black and mild. Stop talking.
Wait, hold on. I don't know if you're new to Clubhouse, Nick.
I don't give a fuck about no clubhouse, nigga. Shut your bitch ass up.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, anyways, but the point I was making was it doesn't make much sense for a lot of people to go straight to like a big 4-year school from the get-go out of high school, especially when the first 2 years in both schools you're just going to be taking the same exact fucking prerequisites that you would have taken at the community college for thousands of dollars less with the same accreditation. And on top of that, you can get I know that the community college I go to has a program where if you get your associate's degree over there, it's damn near a guaranteed transfer over to one of the major 4-year schools that are in Florida, whichever one of your choice. So for the most part, as long as you do that, it saves you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of fucking dirty work that you don't want to have to do, that people made just because, oh, I'm going to go to this big school right out of college, and then get surprised when they get financially fucked up.
XG, you know, in most parts of the country now, there's a bigger cheat code than community college, and that's to get those college credits while you're still in high school.
Oh yeah, I do all the time, especially when you do your AP courses and all that type of stuff, but people are too fucking lazy to do the AP courses. Most of the people didn't take AP World. They heard about how hard it was for everyone else and they didn't want to take it. But I started college with about 12, 14 college credits because I took a fuck ton of APs and I did some other courses that got me some college credit as well. So I mean, if you advance your shit during high school, take the community college right afterwards to get the rest of your credits really fast, guarantee transfer to 4-year school, and then save yourself the tens of thousands that you would on the first 2 years, you're really not that bad in a financial hole. I don't understand student loans have people in such a fucking debt unless you're in like a field that's like, I don't know, fucking the medical field or fucking tech industry or some shit like that. I maybe one of those two, but most of the part, people are just complaining because they chose to get degrees that wouldn't actually pay out in the same way without them acknowledging.
XG, how's your credit card there?
0. I don't have a credit card. I only use debit.
Yeah. All right. God bless you. Smart guy.
Well, hold on. Let's not say that we shouldn't have credit cards. Credit cards are good because they establish credit, and credit is something he's going to want at some point.
Oh no, I have credit. The thing is, I don't use a credit card myself. My parents have had me on theirs, my name on theirs ever since, and then they built up my credit while I wasn't.
Yeah, that was what I was going to suggest to anybody in here is if you have kids or if you are a kid, your parents' credit, having them add you to their credit card, even if they don't give you access to using it. Let's say they keep the card and they just add you as an authorized user. What this does, not only does it create a credit history for you, but it one of the things that they measure when they're evaluating credit is the age of your credit. And so if you're somebody that's, let's imagine that like at 24 you decide, hey, I might want to think about buying a house, and like that's pretty young to be thinking about that. The biggest hurdle that people would run into, aside from not having the money, right, and not having the income to qualify, would be not having the credit history to qualify. But at 24, you could have been on your parents' credit, and you could have an average credit of 10 plus years.
Yep.
And so then when they run your credit, you know, as long as you haven't done other stupid things, pay your bills on time, all that kind of jazz, it puts you in a much better situation. And by the way, for those people that don't have a lot of credit history now, find somebody that trusts you and you trust them, that does have a long credit history, and have them add you as an authorized user. And it's just one component of your credit score, but it's an important one that gives it an instant boost.
Just as a little detail, like that's how I was able to get my first condo for the most part, because my credit score at that time was like 820 or some shit. And then afterwards, what we did is we used my parents' line of income with my credit score and got a fucking amazing rate for the house. So we were doing good on that one. So yeah, even on that one, you can even, it benefits the parents too, because if you ever want to get a new place, just tell your kid to use their line of credit, and then afterwards use your line of income, and then you're all set.
You know, when you Roger, you made a great point, Roger. I was just referring to credit card debt, where the rates are so high. But you brought it up. You're right about that. Get a credit history with no debt. Excellent point, Roger. Excellent points. Very important.
You know, one of the things I was going to mention, my nephew actually, during COVID for his freshman year, he had to stay home during homeschooling because my mom had kidney failure, so he didn't want to get her sick and stuff. But had he went to the public school and completed the 4 years in high school and stuff like that with his nursing and medical classes, they said that had he done the freshman year in school, he would have been a licensed LVN, so like a licensed vocational nurse, but he would have been technically unlicensed, but he would have had everything that he needed. The only thing he would have had to do is qualify for the license.
Yeah, hey, MD, if you don't mind me asking, you're still a student, you're employed, which I really appreciate. Do you have the ability with the bills that you do have to invest monthly into some sort of stocks, bonds, or other assets? Are you investing currently?
At the moment, I wouldn't say I'm in charge of my own investments. For the most part, what I'll do is I'll ask for, because I know my dad does a lot of more of the financial stuff on that end, especially stock-wise, and I don't believe at this moment that I'm financially literate enough yet in order to make a smart decision on that end. So I usually just talk to him about, hey, is there anything I should be putting something into, blah, blah, blah. And then me and my dad have talked about like Roth IRAs and stuff like that, and maybe getting into doing one of those. But for the most part, not too much investment on my end.
Yeah, so here's something that people don't talk enough about with young people. It's like we wait until people are 30 or 40, and then when they go, oh man, I wish I would have done this sooner. Then the older people are like, yeah, you should have done that sooner, but they're not advising them at the time that they should be doing it. The biggest key to building wealth, it's, yes, you need income to be able to invest, but it's the time, it's the consistency of doing it month in and month out, paycheck after paycheck, but then also the time that you're in the market. And so there's a few things that I would advise people to do. Number one, that whole idea of an emergency fund, don't put that in a savings account. Go get yourself a brokerage firm. Sign up for an E-Trade account, something like that. And the money that you would have put in a traditional savings account, go buy an ETF that's mapped to T-bills. Treasury bills are a great way to get a higher interest rate than a traditional savings, but also it's very liquid. You can withdraw typically from a brokerage account like that. If you needed it in your emergency fund, you can transfer that money out to yourself within 2 days, right? And so it gives you almost the same flexibility of having the money in a savings account, but it's going to give you more than twice the amount of interest. So that's what I would do in terms of building your emergency fund. But in terms of investing for the future, until you become more financially literate, a simple investment in the S&P 500, and there's ETFs that map to that. You don't have to think about it. There's a few of them that you can choose from that essentially take your money and they give you a small piece of the S&P, which over its history, there's never been a 30-year period where it didn't average a return of 10% or more. And so I would build that emergency fund first because you need the liquidity in case an emergency happens. That's typically 6 months of living expenses. Once you have that, and by the way, the T-bill that you could purchase, if you wanted the actual ticker, it's SGov. That's SGOV. If you do that for your savings account, that's a really, really, really good option for you. The next thing I would say is that when you do need to map it to the S&P, there's a few options that you have, but you have to set that and forget that. That's money that you're never going to touch till it's time to retire. If you started doing that at your age, and I don't remember how old you are, I
22.
think you're under. Okay, so 22. If you did that for 30 years, and let's just say put 15% of your income, even at the income that you're at now, and then as your income grows, continue doing that, I would guarantee you that despite whatever job you have, if you just put 15%, by the time in 30 years time, you'll have easily over $1 million. And as your income grows, you'll probably be in the $3 to $5 million over a 30-year period if you did this every single fucking pay.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea for the most part. I could probably put up some money from the side from the music gigs that I do, because I work 2 jobs for the most part. I have my regular one, which is just the one that I'm doing right now. I just work at a smoke shop for the most part. I make good money here, and I make good commission off of my sales too, because I'm pretty decent at doing that. But on top of that, I do like live jazz gigs around the city too, and those pay pretty nicely too. So I can probably put some of those jazz gig funds over to the side too. Appreciate the advice.
Yeah, no,
I have a question. Roger, can you explain this to me? I thought the purpose of canceling the federal government Department of Education was to send the management of education to the states, and then the states be responsible for how they're going to deal with the student loans and all of that. Did I misunderstood that? Was this like?
Yeah, partially. Yeah, well,
was the purpose to send it to private lenders?
You're partially correct in terms of the desire of people closing the Department of Education is to have the states be responsible for the education in their state. That being said, do you know where the Department of Education, like what they fund? Are you aware of what they're responsible for?
What do you mean? The Department of Education right now?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are confused about what the role of the Department of Education, which I'm totally 100% on board with abolishing.
I don't know what part of it you're talking about. Like I don't understand.
Yeah, the biggest expenditure in that is number one, it's the human resources of staffing it, but the next thing is Pell Grants, and so I would like to get the federal government completely out of loaning money. I don't think the federal government should loan money to any of us for anything. I think that these are free market exchanges that we should do in the private sector. And when people say that they want the government involved in this stuff and they want the taxpayers to insure these things, they're essentially saying that they're a socialist without knowing that they're saying that they're so.
But they do it for corporations all the time. When corporations get in trouble, so and for way more
I don't
money
support.
than they get.
I don't support that either. Like so.
I'm saying, but they do. So I mean, they the ones who's doing it. So it's just showing. Like I get your argument, and you can have an argument from that point of view. But it's like it just taking one part of it though, because they're totally hypocritical, and so what they're trying to do is not what their stated goal cannot be their stated goal. If they steady saying fuck capitalism, they steady giving corporations money, but they want to tell the people we can't give you shit. That's not. I mean, that's not cool at all.
Well, the two things can be true at the same time. I think that the government providing social welfare, the government providing foreign aid, the government providing subsidies to large corporations, or granting them regulatory favor, these are all problems. with all of these problems. And I think you're right, Kim. This is one of the areas where I think you and I first, saw eye to eye on this, is that there's a lot of hypocritical people that will talk about reining in government spending, but they'll make these arguments for subsidies for corporations because they don't have the. Let's be honest. This bill is evidence that fiscal conservatism is dead, which sucks because just a couple of months ago you had a pseudo government agency that was looking at, at least advising on making cuts. Doge was a really good idea, and the person that was leading that effort is now the most critical, person of this big beautiful bill, because it goes in the exact opposite direction of what their spoken goal was. So, Ahmed, you and I agree on this. I think that you and I probably have some differences on, what government's role is, but I think we agree in the hypocrisy of Republicans that talk about the fiscal irresponsibility of Democrats, and then they get into office and they're incredibly reckless with spending, especially with the way that they provide subsidies to corporate America and their advocacy to continue foreign aid. I think that there's a lot of things that we could cut down, but if they really wanted to find their balls, what we would this is when you know that fiscal conservatism comes back, when the people that are mainstream getting elected and making decisions are telling you that their intention that, hey, we need to end Social Security and Medicare, or we're going to privatize these things. Until they start talking about that, they're just lying to you about being fiscally conservative.
Hey, but not to defend them, but they is cutting over $1 trillion for Medicaid and SNAP though. But
well, no, hold on. But you have to put the caveat in there. That's $1 trillion over a 10-year period.
Okay, yeah, right, I got it, right.
Which, by the way, in 2028, depending on who wins the and what Congress looks like, all of this stuff could get reversed anyways. And so by the time that 10 years is over, my guess, my prediction is that they're not going to save $1 trillion. They're not going to get anywhere close to that. In fact, if I had to guess that by 2034, when they say they're going to save $1 trillion, I think they're going to actually spend more money because, yeah, I think they're going to spend more money.
And we don't disagree about spending. Like I'm not for foreign spending. I'm not for corporate welfare or social welfare. But you can't continue to do foreign welfare and corporate welfare, but tell the people, especially students, like, no, we can't do. We did this when we draw the line. So if you're gonna do that, then you gotta cut them off. It ain't. So I'm not gonna praise them because I agree with cutting spending. I'm not going to praise it because they cut it in one way that hurts the people, but they didn't address the main two ways at all. So now that's the problem. Not only the hypocrisy that who they are targeting, they are clearly targeting the people. And I don't see how nobody can accept it.
Well, yeah. So in terms of, they're doing what they think they can get away with, right? What they can get passed. I mean, this bill barely got passed. So they do what they think they can get done, but. Ideologically, like I would say, like if I had to prioritize these things, I would start with erasing federal funding of just foreign aid completely, full stop. I would do it in a phased approach. I would stop any country that is adversarial to us would get nothing. Any country that then the next wave would be. Any country that that has a trade imbalance that we think is unfair, I'd cut that funding next, and I would do this in waves, and I would eventually get to our allies where I would cut that funding, and then after all federal foreign aid is cut, then I would go into subsidies, and I would push for a constitutional amendment that taxpayer dollars never fund corporations, period, full stop. And then regulatory capture, we should address that as well because that's a big piece of it. And then the final thing would be the social welfare programs, which is the biggest part of the budget. But the reason why I prioritize this stuff is we're giving U.S. taxpayer dollars to countries where U.S. citizens, don't benefit, and then corporations, the vast majority of the people are not benefiting from that. So then when we get to the social component of it, that would be the final one, and that would be the hardest pill to swallow. But I think that if we were to knock these dominoes down one by one, that's the order in which I would go.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. They're going in the reverse. And not only the reverse order, I don't think they're going to get to the other two. I think this is where they're going to stay, and that is the problem.
I still didn't get my answer. Is he on the phone? He is. But does anybody know when we talked about the education, Department of Education going to the states? Did this really mean for the loans to be? Mojo, are you here?
I'm back, yeah.
Okay, so I said I still didn't understand. I didn't get the answer that I was looking for. So do you know when we talk about, this Department of Education going to the states, does that mean the loans be handled by private sectors or still by government, but now by the states?
No, all the loans will be private. There will be no more. There's nothing changing. There will be no more federal student loan. Period. And then, like I said earlier, once you get the loan, it ain't once you finish, the interest start accruing at 6% instantly while you're in school. So even if tuition is going to have to now, by the time you get out of school, you're going to be owing probably more because the interest done compounded so much on you. I don't see how this is a fix or a win or I just think it hurts people. I think it's intentionally to hurt people.
Is it me or Hakima's voice is really difficult to hear?
No, is it better now, Sarah?
Sorry, I'm at the grocery store. I'm gonna probably have to stay muted for a little bit. Matter of fact, I need to turn the volume down. Can't afford for you guys to ruin my reputation by saying weird things.
And the prophet lifted up his grandson's gown.
You talk about pedophile, what happened?
Hosenia's grandson. This is baby penis. I'm glad Roger turned it down.
I can't wait to Roger get back so he can tell us how he like on that video they're giving ICE $150 billion. What's because ICE moving $150 billion? This is crazy.
All I know is if the student loan goes from federal to private lender, that is actually going to be the start of systemic racism and systemic classism.
100%.
See, Hakima, see? When I say we don't have systemic racism right now, it's because we don't. But it looks like we're headed that way. I can't believe this. I can't believe America's going downward.
Hey, sir, this is going to be just another layer. This is something that you want to see because you're going to thank people that you know, but it is another layer of the systemic racism that they're just digging into. So it's not like it didn't exist in other places. They're just making it even worse. They took away affirmative action. Now they're giving the low income, not just black but minorities, but just lower class whites as well going to suffer from it. But so basically it's an attack on class.
That's why I call it systemic racism, systemic /classism, because it's class that they're attacking. if they do this. I don't know if this is going to happen. Honestly, I don't think it will happen. I hope it doesn't happen.
Like I said, he's signing it into the law tomorrow. Like, it's not a if. Like,
No.
If they got passed Congress, and it,
What is in that bill that is regarding this? So student loan is done, the government is not paying student loan? No, that's not it. I don't even know what's in the bill.
that's in the bill. The government, they will privatize student loans. That is, even people that got current student loans.
Okay, I gotta go read this bill. I gotta go read this bill. I might take
Sarah,
a
do you
back.
only talk when others are talking?
That is something I do often too, yeah.
Sarah, can I just say this? This is my hope. What happens with private lenders? I hope that they do discriminate, but the ones that I want them to discriminate against are those that are less likely or higher risk of defaulting on the loan. And so, yeah, I want people to have their credit scrutinized, so then they can make assessments of whether or not it's wise to give them this loan or not. And so, if the end result of that ends up meaning that an identity group has a larger percentage, that's just that's something that I'm willing to accept, because the number one thing is, and I don't care how it turns out, other than just making sure that we're doing this on the basis of credit worthiness. If you don't have credit worthiness, they shouldn't give you a loan. And the previous way was allowing.
Hold on, Sarah. We're not any black or low-income people or just poor people that don't know about credit. Like they have no credit. Like when you're 18, a lot of black people don't even didn't know what credit was. They have bad credit. So they're not gonna qualify just for the simple fact because they didn't have a parent that they could attach them to their credit card that could help them get credit at 18. But now you're getting punished for a lack of knowing, a lack of knowledge in the system that you've been systemically held back in. I think on the surface, I get what you're saying, but when you really think about it, like the shit is not okay, right?
And Roger, you earlier told me to take a couple math classes. I do have an MBA, and I understand where you're coming from and what you hope to see happens from this loan going to private lenders, but as how the business is supposed to work and how the loan department's supposed to work, it doesn't work in the way that you and I wish. The way it works is they don't care who that student is, what their GPA is, what they may or may not accomplish in future. They're going to look and see what does this person have that they can hold on to as collateral damage, before wanting to lend the money to them. And that is absolutely going to affect our, this is really bad. I don't know.
Wait, hold on. Absolutely. No, hold on. And Nick, it's not your turn to speak. And if you interrupt again, you're going to be removed from the room.
LOL.
We're not bringing you back up. You're just a fucking retard. Period. Sarah, so here's the issue, right? If you were the bank, if you were lending money, don't you believe that it's your right to establish the criteria for assessing?
Definitely.
Okay.
And the way I'm gonna place that, characteristics of it is gonna actually contribute directly to systemic racism and systemic classism. That's how I'm gonna do it.
Wait, hold on. I want to respond to the retard in the chat. He seems to think that the banks are backed by tax dollars. Now, we have given them bailouts, which was tax dollars. There's that. So I'd agree on that front. But I would bet this moron thinks that FDIC comes from taxpayer dollars. I would bet that this moron believes that. I would bet that he doesn't understand what member banks funding FDIC actually means. I would bet that this idiot is, he does know. Okay, so explain to me, Nix, from the chat. Well, I'm not bringing you up, you're an ignorant fool. But from the chat, tell me, how is FDIC funded? No, I'm not letting you speak. You lost that privilege by twice being on the stage and interrupting people with stupid comments. So listen, and by the way, I will just say this: I can tell by your photograph. I can tell by the way that you carry yourself in that photograph that you are a fucking retard. I can make that assessment. Go ahead. And yes, I'm judging you.
That's a limp dick blunt, by the way.
Yeah, he should look at the blunt that I'm smoking in my PTR. That one's.
I don't know how.
Anyways,
NDIS is funded. I assume it's just a regulation. Like, aren't banks just funded by the money people put in them?
Well, no, but we're talking about insuring the money. When you put your money in the bank, what ensures that money is going to be insured? There's a mechanism where after the run on the banks in the 20s, what happened was they said, well, we need to